want to welcome our next guest, the man who's trying to retire, Congressman Joe Courtney. He's an Army veteran and a former correctional officer, Republican Justin Anderson, a candidate on the 2nd Congressional District. Justin, hey, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
Wanted to ask you this. You beat your Republican opponent in the primary by the slim margin of 81 votes. What makes you think that you're going to be able to beat an entrenched Democratic incumbent who's been serving in Congress since 2007?
Well, I think it's time for change. I think Connecticut knows it's time for change. I've been working a really strong grassroots campaign to get out there, and I truly believe people want safety and security. And that's what I represent. I back the police 100%. We got to get our economy going, and I have a very positive, good message. And quite honestly, I'm new to politics. I think we have a problem with career politicians that have been around for a long time. I've got a long, extensive history, and I think it's time for a change. It's time for something fresh. I believe I'm that guy.
All right. You're a political newcomer. You just said it. What's your pitch to the voters? Why should they vote for you?
Well, quite honestly, we need better leadership, not politics. Career politicians are not helping us out. We have politicians, and I believe Joe Courtney is one of them, that he's kind of, beholden to his own party. I am not going to be that individual. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to represent the people. It's the needs and the wants of what the people, that should drive the individual politician. I don't see that in politics today, and that's why I'm here. I think we can have a better system with better politicians who really care about the people, and they're not going to be beholden to the party itself.
Justin, going off of what you just said, you transitioned nicely into one of my questions. You mentioned not being beholden to the party. Being a Connecticut Republican is very different from a different brand than being, an Alabama Republican or something like that. So the question is, will you be a rubber stamp for President Trump? Are there things that he's done that you disagree with?
A rubber stamp? Absolutely not. I'll never be a rubber stamp for anybody. One thing I can say is he's very strong with foreign policy. It's something I look at quite a bit. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the military, and it's a very important topic for me. So, I can say I do like what he's doing. The fact that within 18 months, he eradicated ISIS, and just a lot of moves that he makes. I don't think people understand completely, how good of a job he's actually doing. I think the media spends a lot of time trying to put him in a bad light. But as he's doing policies that I know are going to benefit America and our safety, I'm going to back him up. If something if it's blatantly wrong, then obviously I'm always going to do the right thing for the people, if that's the direction that we're headed.
And you brought up the military. I know that's a big part of your background. Your opponent, Joe Courtney, has been dubbed 2 Sub Joe. He has touted his support of Connecticut's defense contractors and says that he's brought back jobs to Connecticut from overseas. What does Connecticut's defense industry need that they're not getting that you can do better with?
Well, more. We need a pipeline of students, so we go down and we have good technical people who are going to continue to work down at the Groton sub base. One of the things when we talk about 2 Sub Joe, I understand that the presidential policy really drives how much military spending we're going to do. We currently have a president who's very strong on military spending. That money is allocated from Congress. The Navy, they decide what they need built. With that money, and the hard work is down the electric boat make that happen. Quite honestly, Joe Courtney doesn't play as big a role in that process. Of course, we got to make sure that, Groton keeps on making subs. That's something I think I can do and I can do well. And, obviously, the more we can do and the more contracting we can get down here, I believe it's going to benefit us. And I believe I've done it in the past on the National Guard side. I believe I can continue to do it. And I could work along with people, within the Armed Service Committee who are actually the chair and the deputy chair, both Republicans. I think we can continue with that success. If not, definitely improve on it. I've done it in the past on the National Guard side. Absolutely.
Yeah. Justin, I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I know your name was brought up a lot during the primary because your primary opponent, Thomas Gilmer's ex-girlfriend, came to you with a video that allegedly showed Gilmer assaulting her. Walk me through what was going through your mind when you saw that video, the decisions that you made during that time and why you made them.
The whole thing was pretty tough. The reality is, I don't know her. I never met her before. I was watching him, throughout the year, and there was a lot of stuff that he was saying that it didn't seem like they were necessarily true. So I had a lot of doubts and questions in my mind about his character. And then suddenly this video lands in my lap, from somebody I don't even know. So the first thing was trying to verify as much as possible. One of the issues was for a lot of people, once this was, once this had come out and once she had, shown the video, for a lot of people it was allegations. But you also have to understand there was like partial police reports that I saw, a lot of pictures, of obvious abuse in the video itself. So for me, they were very credible and very real allegations. So part of the issue was she had initially said she did not want it to go to the police, or she did not want it to, be made public, simply because she said that's when she fears, for her safety. She said right now she was doing pretty good, but at the same time, she wanted me to know, and she wanted the party to know that this was not a good character, and he shouldn't be representing Connecticut. And that's, once again, this is from her. And so she came forth with the allegations and some what I believe to be credible evidence. And I gave her my promise that I wouldn't, make it public. And that went as far as it did become public, as far as people who were in the other person's campaign were making sure that he knew quite a bit about it, and it really just got to the point where.
And Justin, I know you're in a tough spot. I know you're in a tough spot during that time, and you want to try and respect her wishes. But you brought it to J.R. Romano, and you didn't go straight to the police with it. So tell me why why didn't you go to the police with it?
No, well, I didn't go to the police or make it public because she told me not to, and I promised her that I would not. So once again, it's a strange position. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, then why are you giving this to me? What am I supposed to do with this? Other than the fact I decided in my mind this guy can't represent me either. But then what do I do? And I, based on that question, she said, well, you should bring it to the party leadership, and have them act on it. So that was from her. That was a decision that I made. And pretty much all the decisions I made in this entire process were based off of her wishes, and the fact that I believed her. So, me believing what she was saying and me thinking allegations seemed pretty real, I essentially tried to follow her wishes and try to come to, essentially, I felt she needed justice, for her situation, and at the same time, she also did want privacy too. So that's a hard thing to try and balance. Okay. So I just kind of went off of what her wishes were.
Okay, let's move on. Mm-hmm. Sure, let's move on. Justin, in a tweet, somebody called you, quote, a great man, Republican, veteran, patriot, and friend. That was former congressional candidate Robert Hyde, who gained national headlines as part of the Russia-Ukraine impeachment probe. Hyde was accused of surveilling the ambassador to Ukraine on behalf of the Trump administration. We're often in life judged by the company that we keep. How do you know Mr. Hyde?
Okay, that's a fair question. I'm going to give you a story that's going to kind of surprise you a little bit. I never knew Hyde before. Quite honestly, what happened was I went to RTC meeting, and I'm going to tell you honestly, I didn't expect to go down this route, but since we're here, I'm as honest as can be. I just got to tell it like it is. So I sat down and I was having a dinner at a meeting, an RTC event up in Coventry, and Mr. Hyde sat down with me and my wife, and I'd never met him before. And that was also the same time that I found out that Thomas Gilmore was running for office. So what happened during that night, he came over and he said, hey, this guy over there is running for office. I didn't know either one of them. And then he went into this whole story about how the other candidate who was running for 2nd Congressional District was essentially trying to, blackmail him. He wanted an endorsement from Hyde. And this is coming from Hyde. This is, the truth is just, this is not my story. This is the story that, it unfolded towards me. But what I was told was the guy was trying to get an endorsement and he wasn't going to give it to him. So, Thomas Gilmore essentially said, well, if you don't, I'm going to put some information out there that's going to make you look bad. So based on that, from that point on, Robert Hyde obviously did not like Thomas Gilmore. And he backed me 100%. Now, I don't know this guy. I don't know him from anybody. I don't know his background. I do know he wanted to back me very hard.
So you do not reciprocate his friendship. Do you reciprocate his friendship?
Well, that's an odd question. I mean, I know him because of politics. I've never known him before. So when you say friendship, this is not somebody that I grew up with. This is not somebody from high school. That's kind of an odd question. This is somebody that I know from politics.
I say friendship because he called you a friend. Yeah. I say friendship because that's what he called you in the tweet. But I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate that story. I do want to move on. You were a correctional officer for many years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were a correctional officer for many years. What do we need to do, in your opinion, to reform the criminal justice system here in Connecticut?
Well, quite honestly, Connecticut has a phenomenal. Are we talking Department of Corrections? Or are we talking as a whole? Because one thing is we don't defund the police. That's going to hurt the people that need the support of the police the most.
You were a correctional officer, so talk to me about the prisons. Yeah, we have less than a minute, but talk to me about the prisons.
Our prisons are fantastic. I'll tell you what, we have some of the best nationwide. We have some of the best people working in our prisons right now. We actually went through reform back in the early 90s. We had a huge gang problem. And quite honestly, when we talk about prison reform, I don't think there's a single state in this country that's doing as good as Connecticut. So I definitely think there's got to be reform across the board. I wouldn't start in Connecticut. I would start in places elsewhere.
Got it. All right, Justin Anderson, candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. Hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for answering these questions. Good luck in the rest of your campaign. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, and thank you for joining us on this edition of The Real Story. We'll be back again next Sunday. Jen Bernstein returns. By the way, we welcome her back after having her new baby. And we want to see you again tonight for the Fox 61 News starting at 10. Have a great Sunday.